Okay, everybody, this is the second podcast we're doing about the East Coast Dog Brothers Camp 2019. We got a special guest with us today. I'm going to throw it over to Mark Denny, and he's going to introduce him.
Special guest, Lloyd DeJongh, originally of South Africa and now of Warsaw, Poland. There's quite a story in all of that. Lloyd and I first met, what was it, Lloyd, about 2008?
2010, I think it was.
Okay, 2010. I think a couple of years before that, some of the Piper South African people had approached me for advice on starting a gathering of knife fighters based on the idea of the Dog Brothers gathering of the pack. And my observation was I thought it might not be a good idea because when you get people from different knife cultures coming together, the potential for misunderstanding was substantial. And they decided that that was probably a good idea, and they decided not to do that. But Lloyd and I met. He was passing through LA, and I got to train with him. The footage I had seen of Piper at that point was very scarce, but I was very intrigued by the quality of the movement. And then I met Lloyd, and I was very impressed. But with him being in South Africa and me being in Los Angeles, it wasn't really possible to continue. And then a couple of years ago, things reconnected, and I brought him out to LA to do a seminar, which we did at Martin Wheeler's school. And people were really impressed, and I can, continue to be impressed. And in the meantime, I had developed the Chupacabra system for knife, and I was seeing some real synergy potential. And what he was doing is he was moving beyond Piper. He had developed his Tripwire system. He had developed some really, really good mobility work, the ability to help people move better. I thought was quite special. And he also really got me to appreciate far more than I had previously the insights of John Boyd, famous for the OODA loop, but I came to appreciate that there was much more there. And so we continued to work together. The wonders of Skype now enables us to, most weeks we get together and we're going back and forth through the Skype camera and working on ideas and developing things. And he visited me and Kevin Carr in Washington when I was up there for some work with Akita Tactical, and so we had a lot of good time there. And so we've been working at it a while, and at the camp we're going to be introducing our Rapid Transients Weaponcraft system. Boy, take it away.
Okay, yeah. Anything in particular you want me to cover, or just
Well, tell us about how you see it all.
Interesting point is that the Piper system is obviously African derived. It's a very different paradigm of movement than Western and Asian methods of movement, which is why people find it intriguing, although it is very raw. Now, it does come from a criminal background, so I've been extracting what's effective from it and trying to apply it to the way professionals in the field would want to use it, or good guys, right, to remove it. Now, the Piper that I was taught and I learned that they're effectively two types. One is your street thug, and the other is your prison assassin. Very, very short range, very explosive, and lots of concealment, lots of deception, and also very little defense. In that, a lot of your think of Blitzkrieg when the Germans were attacking. They would move in this seemingly random fashion, move very fast, not protect their flanks, not protect their rear. They would direct their force through the weak points and go, and their defense was in their speed and maneuverability. So, and maneuverability was made up of their ability to change angles and change maneuvers and speed up and slow down and suddenly twist and turn and duck and dive very quickly. So a lot of the work that I've been doing, taking apart the Piper system and modernizing it, is to work on the ability to maneuver, to change height, speed, and direction, to change maneuvers. If you look at the work John Boyd did, he was the guy that discovered, he created the OODA loop, but also he created modern air tactics, and he discovered that the pilots who prevailed. So were the ones who were able to change maneuvers, were able to switch from one maneuver to the next so fast that the guy who was trying to get a pin them down could not keep up. This person eventually just was flailing, and they would then use that to gain initiative. So Boyd took tactics from, you know, gunnery, how to shoot, to tactics, which is how to prevail. So we all know how to shoot, we all know how to hit, we all know how to stab. The aim, though, is fine, you've got these basic tools, but how do you guarantee success? Now, obviously, there's no guarantee of success, but Marc talks about dying less often. So how do you maximize your probabilities of success? And a lot of that, if you look at the people who succeeded at that, you know, look at your blitzkrieg, your blitz warfare, your modern maneuver warfare, it all lies in being able to move first, move fast, and confuse the other guy. So in other words, a practical application of the OODA, a very, very sort of a one-man application of OODA down to the tactical level, down to the one-man army fighting level. And yeah, so I've done a lot of mobility work as well, studying movement. Marc's been a recipient of a lot of that training. And I think, Marc, it's helped you a great deal to recover from your injuries and from your past surgery, correct? Mm-hmm. And recover movement from a level that you were some years back.
Yes.
So
I'm sorry, keep going.
Yeah, one thing, when I was in LA with Marc and we did the seminar, on the second day, well, the first day I did about 45 minutes of mobility. That's typical, which is teaching people how to reconnect with their joints and move each joint individually and move them all multiply. In other words, simple basic movements, freeing their joints, freeing their motion, and then multiple complex motion. And the guys really enjoyed it. And this next day, several people came and said, hey, can we do more of this mobility? It was fantastic. It was really, really good. And we ended up doing a 3-hour session. So 3 hours from 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. we did only mobility before we got stuck into the seminar, because people loved it and said, hey, so I thought a 45-minute session with 3 hours, and it was great. So yeah, and people then learned to move differently, move better, move with less risk of injury. And yeah, it was a fantastic event. So all of these are combined, and this is now fed into what we're creating with Marc's Chupacabra with the Rapid Transients, which is about prevailing, not just knowing how to hit.
So can I jump in for 1 second? I have a couple of questions. Where does the name Piper originate? What is that?
From South African culture. It's actually, it's not an English word. It's really a translation of an Afrikaans word, if you want to look at it that way. 2 origins. There are multiple origins, not quite known. Papemanne, which would be people who played the trumpet, fishermen. Originally, the Malaysians came to South Africa. They were fishermen, but they also brought silat, and they were experts with small knives. So they used to, when they drove around selling fish, they would blow their trumpet to let people know that the fishermen are in the area selling fish, and you'd come out. So they were the experts with the small blades, because the black tribes had sticks and the big shield, right? And the sticks and this long throwing spear. Shaka created the smaller shield and the shorter stabbing spear, but they never developed knives. So Piper was a development and integration of these 2 systems, the silat and the smaller, more intricate movements, dance-like movements of the silat, plus the heavier, harder movements of the stick and the spear from the black traditions. Wow. So Piper, Papemanne, and there's a couple of others, but it's no one knows exactly.
No, that awesome answer. Thank you. Now, the second part of the question is Tripwire. What is that?
Boyd.
So
how do you operate under conditions of uncertainty when you don't know? Uncertainty starts the moment you begin, right? Okay. You know, they say that no plan holds together, you know, once things begin. So what we learned was that you can have all of these wonderful, logical, progressive ideas in terms of how things will proceed, but under conditions of uncertainty, you move differently. You've seen, look in a fight, how people move erratically versus in a kata when they move ideally, or in choreographed movements, right? Under conditions of uncertainty, your movements actually change. They become frenetic. That is because different states of mind elicit different kinds of movement. Because I'm calm and I'm giving a lecture, let's say right now, I move in a certain pace. There's a certain size to my movement. There's a certain tension in my muscles. There's certain expectations in my brain. My motor system operates according to a certain tempo. it would be very weird for me to give a lecture and move like this, because these movements are not in keeping with the current situation. But notice when you get into tension, if you're angry, you move in an angry way. When you're sad, you move in a very sad way. You know, when you're happy, you move in a happy way. Understand? So when I started seeing this, I realized that when you are uncertain, you move in an uncertain manner. The movements become choppy. The movements, and also movements become like shortcuts. Like for instance, in an ideal world, you could block like this and intercept. But when things are happening thick and fast and you're only catching fragments of movements and you've got to predict and guess, and you've got to extrapolate, where's this punch coming? Is it going at my nose, going at my cheek, going at my chest? Then movements become, shall we say, approximations. So this ideal movement from karate, let's say, becomes that. You know, so this ideal parry becomes this. So everything becomes approximations, and your brain is then working out of the back of your mind using approximations. And I started working with, so you've got, whereas under ideal circumstances, this would be 30 frames of information, which you can then process and then respond to. All you see is this, because it's moving so fast, your forebrain only operates so fast, it picks up one frame, this, and it has to guess, where's that going? What's it going to do? And it responds using these, shall we say, heuristics, these mental shortcuts. And you operate with these shortcuts. So that's why the movement becomes frenetic and you don't know. So the movement hands over from the front of your brain to the back of your brain, which is so fast your forebrain cannot catch up. That's why you often don't remember what you did. It's just this black box. And when it's done moving, it hands back over to the front of it and says, what did you do? That's why we remember fragments of movement. You remember this, you know, this frenetic mess. So the point was, how do we embrace that? And how do we use it actively and consciously? How do we activate it so that we are operating at optimal with the least possible amount of information so that we can prevail?
Wow. That, and you have a whole system to train this.
Yes.
Wow. That was a really good answer. So now we get to the third part of my question. So I assume now this, and then in combination with what you're doing with Marc, is Rapid Transient Weaponcraft. Did I say that right, Marc?
Rapid Transients Weaponcraft.
Rapid Transients Weaponcraft.
RTW for short.
Okay. So Marc, introduce us to that. Now we're rolling this out. First time at this camp.
All right. So Lloyd said something that I want people, all of that was really good, but notice how he's talked about how Piper was a system for hits in prison and for street criminals. And as such, it's a system going armed against an unarmed person. And so a lot of people look at that and they go, wow, that's really great, but you know, what's the point? What is the purpose of that system? I'm not interested in, you know, if I have a knife, I don't really worry about unarmed people. And, you know, they just, you know, what's the morality here? Insert the pointy end if that's what you want to do. And so trying to organize things in the framework that I've used over years, the Lorentzian thing of territory, hierarchy, reproduction, and in the case of humans, hunting behavior, predatory behavior. The way I organize Piper in my thinking is it's a predatory system. It is a system of ambush and of preying upon the weak, the unarmed.
Well, Tripwire would be counter-ambush, would be the
yeah, well, that's why I said Piper. I agree. You know, the Tripwire, which I think is what he's developed with the Tripwire, I think is brilliant. But that's how I, in my thinking, how I organize the Piper. And whereas the Chupacabra system, the answer to that question, is we always want to answer the question, what is the problem being solved? And so with Chupacabra, the problem being solved is we have to go frontally now against somebody who might be younger, bigger, stronger, and meaner. Or we might be surrounded by a pack of jackals. We might want to be a porcupine surrounded by a pack of jackals. And that frontal killing system thing, it goes back to a story that some people know that I tell sometimes about this one knife teacher sat down next to me as another knife teacher was teaching, and he said, what do you think? I said, wow, this is really, really good. And he says, these guys are no good. And I said, what do you mean? He says, all their attacks are from in front. So he was looking at it from the point of view, if you're going to be knifing somebody, why would you attack from the front? Of course you're going to ambush them. And that was a moment of satori for me. But the Chupacabra system embraces that, says, yeah, there are times. And, you know, some people know my story of the Samoan bill collector who showed up at my front door thinking I was somebody else. Now, I was able to converse the situation in a spirit of mutual respect. But I always ask, and there's another conversation I had with somebody who said, you know, what's your knife technique? This is the man who would kill people in prison. He says, there's no technique. You steel yourself up and you pump them until they're dead. And then you bind your wounds. And so my mental image is of somebody big and powerful. This Samoan bill collector, he looked like he'd been lifting weights every day in the prison yard for the last 10 years. He's covered with prison tattoos. He probably went about 280 pounds. My little 3-inch folding blade is not going to impress him. He's going to knock me out. And then for having had the temerity of pulling a blade on him, he's going to stomp my skull flat. This is a real problem. And so with Chupacabra, I look to have a way that we can come forward, should we have to defend our family, or if we're surrounded by a pack of jackals, what I sometimes call a cranky crowd of scurrilous scum. And so we want to have something where in the high adrenal state, we can function. What Lloyd was talking about, the nature of the movement and how you shift to the back of the brain. Is that the cerebellum, Lloyd? Yeah, you know, where you shift back into the cerebellum and so forth, and the nature of operating in high adrenaline conditions, that we want to have a system that holds up under that kind of stress. And for good people, that's a real good trick. And so that's how I developed the Chupacabra system. I took a principle from Bondo. I took a principle from Pikiti Tersha. I took a principle from Bukti Nagara Penjak Sila, and I put them together, put something together in a particular way. And Lloyd had something, I don't even know what we now call the full metal elbows, Lloyd, that structure, which I think is brilliant. I think in terms of how do you have oppressive people mobbed up against you, and how do you deal with it? What did that come from? Is that Piper, or is that something else?
Effectively, yeah. So Marc and I started to talk, and we started to find that we had these merging set of ideas. Marc was bringing structure to chaos, especially for people who are observably weaker, at a disadvantage, and also maybe don't have the training time to put in that they would otherwise want. Right? So how do you create someone who can maintain structure? And also, if you can maintain physical structure, you can maintain mental structure. You can hold the line mentally because you've got a structure that helps to defend you. So you are you're sacrificing a little bit of movement for a lot of freedom, for a lot of offensive ability and a lot of armor, right? So yeah, so the idea is in South Africa, what's weird is when you do look at JKD guys and such, and they do multiple assailant training, they'll talk about trying to get the guys in a straight line, or they'll talk about, moving around a lot or keeping distance. Well, in South Africa, look at the black culture. It's very different. They don't worry about that at all, right? What they worry about is exposing their arms, because the moment your arms go out, someone's going to wrap around your arm and grab you, and then you're done. So they focus heavily on keeping the arms protected. So what they'll do is they'll protect their neck and make sure that if they get hit in the head, and yeah, they'll sacrifice the head here in that sense. If they get hit in the head, fine, but they'll take that. They'll play with that. And what happens is they start to use the arms like this. And I've done this drill with numerous people. I've had like 8 or 9 people. I've done this in the open. I've done this against the wall. That's typically 2 scenarios we do. And it's designed to prevent people from grabbing you. And you are, like Marc said, that hedgehog with all these sharp quills. You've got multiple different weapons, and you'd be amazed how easy it is for someone to potentially break their fingers or their wrist, have their arm broken, be wrenched off balance. And it's not hard. When I do the drill with 8 or 9 people packing on one guy, be it in open space or being on the wall, they'll get free. And what you find is that when they've got solid structure, they are able to maintain composure better, and they'll get out. They will get out, and also with combined with very particular type of footwork to prevent tripping. They will get out of that group of 8 to 9 guys, and they will then, when they get out, they're so pumped they want to go back in and finish the job. It's weird. So
and then when we put the knife into that, That's the full metal elbows.
Yeah. So this allows you to start doing lots of very interesting things. It's hard to show here, but it certainly works. Now, if you look at the way Chupacabra works, and then into RTW, it has a similar type of structure, which defends around you, which maintains that defense, keeps you going forward, and there's momentum, there's speed, there is taking initiative, and obviously then you don't have to worry all that much on defending your flanks, but you have flank protection, right? So you put protection on 3 sides, and of course you just keep going forward. And that means that you are forcing them to keep up with you. They're always one step behind you. So you have the advantage, you have the initiative, and you drive it home. And you've got more than one weapon in the game, and your vitals are protected.
Oh, I'm really interested in seeing that. I haven't heard that before. So I'm already running scenarios in my head, like just empty hand scenarios, just, getting out of it, like bar scenarios or crowd scenarios or, football stadiums or things like that where stuff goes bad and just getting out of there.
Yeah. Cranky crowds of scurrilous scum.
I like it. Wow. So, so let's, I think that's enough. That was a lot to wrap your head around. So, so Mark, give us a couple of closing thoughts on what you're going to go over on the camp, and then we'll tell them where to go to register, and they need to get their butts out there to see this.
Dogbrothers.com. The camp itself is the 7th through the 9th. If you can get there the night before, the 6th, guard dog, Guro guard dog, Ryan Gruhn, who's also black belt under Eric Paulson in CSW. He and I are going to be teaching his jiu-jitsu class. That's a freebie extra for anybody in the camp, and we're going to be integrating weapon work into the context of grappling. So that's the evening of Thursday, June 6th, and then the camp is the 7th, 8th, and 9th. You can stay at the gym if you're worried about saving money. It's at State College, Pennsylvania. You fly into either Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, and then you get in a puddle jumper and you fly out to State College. A lot of support at that end. Ryan knows all about this. This is the 5th year we're running the camp. Everything's, we know what we're doing. It's pretty smooth. It's nice town. Lots of pretty girls walking around, summertime. It's good time, friendly people, all levels. The RTW is something that, as Lloyd mentioned, it's something that we want people to be able to get functional with in short order. In Dog Brother Martial Arts, we speak of walking as a warrior for all your days. With the RTW system, you have something in your toolkit that if somehow, for whatever reasons, things go really badly sideways, you have what you're going to defend you and your family with, or, the circumstances like that, or, if you need to get out of that area, you have your way of doing it. And so it's very much a walk as a warrior for all your days system. And it's something that, that sounds really advanced. No, this is something that even if you don't have much weaponry experience, you should be able to walk away with something pretty functional. So the third instructor is going to be Dog Brother legend Dogzilla, original Dog Brother, Guro Dogzilla. He heads up the Hawaii clan. He's got over 30 years of corrections work. He runs the kitchen, a very weapon-rich environment. He's on the what I call the special events team. Whenever things go sideways in the prison, he's there. And I'm always telling the story about how he would come into class with the most unusual questions. Mark, how would you fight with a mop? What happened at work today? Well, there was this guy, and he broke the head of the mop off, and then he stabbed the guy through the cheek, and he swept his leg out. Mark, how would you fight a guy with a taped razor blade between his teeth? What happened at work today, Mike? Out would come the story. And so, he's going to be focusing on the real contact stick fighting. He's, very deep and, within the tribe, very well regarded. And, so he has his own distinct developments, and he's going to be sharing those. But I'm also very much looking forward to him being there as Lloyd and I introduce the RTW, because he's going to be given, sharing his perspective that comes from an unusually well-informed background in the realities of prison violence. For those of you who've seen the our Die Less Often DVD, or even just the promo clip for Die Less Often, he's the one who's coming at the camera demonstrating the prison sewing machine. He knows something about violence with a knife. And so I think he's going to add to the conversation, and you know, what Lloyd brings with his understanding of the criminal background in South Africa, and you know, whatever I bring. And so I think it's going to be a rocking good time.
And let me add one more thought on that. You need to attend this in person. These are taped and they are put in the vid lesson archive on dogbrothers.com, but not all of it is, because sometimes they go over things that they may not want released. So there is definitely not only a benefit of being in the room with these gentlemen and getting personal instruction, but you'll probably see some things that nobody else will see. So you really do need to attend in person. Highly recommend it. Dogbrothers.com. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for being with us today.
The adventure continues.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.